thinking of it again and again. What manner of undertaker could hope to obtain business by giving away foolish handbills in the street? Really, the whole thing had an air of a brainless practical joke. Yet his intellectual fairness forced him to admit that as far as the man who had given him the bill was concerned, brainlessness was out of the question, and joking improbable. There had been depths in those little bright eyes, which his glance had not been able to sound, and the man's manner in making him accept the handbill had given the whole transaction a kind of ludicrous significance. "You will soon be wanting a coffin." Eustace found himself turning the words over and over in his mind. If he had any near relations, he might have construed the thing as an elaborate threat. But he was practically alone in the world, and it seemed to him that he was not likely to want a coffin for anyone but himself. "Oh, damn the thing," he said impatiently as he opened the door of his flat. "It isn't worth worrying about. I mustn't let the whim of some mad tradesman get on my nerves. I've got no one to bury anyhow." Nevertheless, the thing lingered with him all the evening, and when his neighbour, the doctor, came in for a chat at 10 o'clock, Eustace was glad to show him his strange handbill. The doctor, who had experienced the queer magics that are practised to this day on the west coast of Africa, and who therefore had no nerves, was delighted with so striking an example of British commercial enterprise. "Though mind you," he added gravely, smoothing the crumpled paper on his knee, "this sort of thing might do a lot of harm if it fell into the hands of a nervous subject. I should be inclined to punch the head of the ass who perpetrated it. Have you turned that address up in the post office directory?" Eustace shook his head, and rose and fetched the fat red book which makes London an English city. Together they found the Gray's Inn Road and ran their eyes down to number 606. Harding, G.J., coffin merchant and undertaker. "Not much information there," muttered the doctor. "Coffin merchant's a bit unusual, isn't it?" queried Eustace. "I suppose he manufactures coffins wholesale for the trade. Still, I didn't know they called themselves that. Anyhow, it seems as though that handbill is a genuine piece of downright foolishness. The idiot ought to be stopped advertising in that way." "I'll go and see him myself tomorrow," said Eustace bluntly. "Well, he's given you an invitation," said the doctor, "so it's only polite of you to go. I'll drop in here in the evening to hear what he's like. I expect that you'll find him as mad as a hatter." "Something like that," said Eustace, "or he wouldn't give handbills to people like me. I have no one to bury except myself." "No," said the doctor in the hall. "I suppose you haven't. Don't let him measure you for a coffin, Reynolds." Eustace laughed. "We never know," he said sententiously. Next day was one of those gorgeous blue days of which November gives but few, and Eustace was glad to run out to Wimbledon for a game of golf, or rather for two. It was therefore dusk before he made his way to the Gray's Inn Road in search of the unexpected. His attitude towards his errand, despite the doctor's laughter and the prosaic entry in the directory, was a little confused. He could not help reflecting that after all, the doctor had not seen the man with the little wise eyes, nor could he forget that Mr. G.J. Harding's description of himself as a coffin merchant, to say the least of it, approached the unusual. Yet he felt that it would be intolerable to chop the whole business without finding out what it all meant. On the whole, he would have preferred not to have discovered the riddle at all, but having found it, he could not rest without an answer. Number 606 Gray's Inn Road was not like an ordinary undertaker's shop. The window was heavily draped with black cloth, but was otherwise unadorned. There were no letters from grateful mourners, no little model coffins, no photographs of marble memorials. Even more surprising was the absence of any name over the shop door, so that the uninformed stranger could not possibly tell what trade was carried on within, or who was responsible for the management of the business. This uncommercial modesty did not tend to remove Eustace's doubts as to the sanity of Mr. G.J. Harding. But he opened the shop door, which started a large bell swinging.